nobody can ever take away your love and your wisdom.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Dr. Jim and Jody show. So Jim is off having fun, so he's on the phone with us. And then this is
in Las Vegas.
yeah, he's in Las Vegas. So he wanted to know why I was getting up before noon to do something today. But this is Kevin. I have been trying. Yes, I have been trying to get Kevin long before Jim and I even started our show to get him on my show. What, a year and a half, 2 years? 2 years. So Kevin meet Jim, Jim meet Kevin.
Jim, I wish I was in Vegas with you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of great things.
yeah. So how I met Kevin is, I'm probably going to cry telling you all this, is Sherry over here is one of my dearest friends, and they started dating, and so you know how us girls are. And she's like, I want you to meet this guy. So we met for a drink, and I fell in love. Like, as soon as you opened your mouth, I fell in love. And then you went to the bathroom, and I was like, it's him. That's the one. And she's like, ah! So 2 weeks ago?
Yep, 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
down in Punta Cana.
Yep.
Made it official.
Yep, they got married. So, yay! I know, she's over in the background going like this. So, the reason I want y'all to
I
meet...
really hope that's what happens when I walk away from a table of girls.
Right?
That's the one.
The opposite is really bad.
I could have gone.
That's awesome.
Only the check is left.
So, part of the reason why I wanted you guys to meet Kevin is he is doing some amazing things in the world. And before the camera started rolling, we were just talking about why Jim and I had started the show, was we have access to really amazing people. And everybody does really cool things, and we're all just people. We put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time, most of the time, unless we're running out the door in a hurry. And it's just like everybody thinks that they have to do all these things and become this thing before they can actually really do good for the world. And what he's doing for the world, you guys, like, it's gonna make you cry. So we'll attach your website and your video and stuff, but if you would like to tell everybody what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, about 5 years ago, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I, we started a nonprofit called Watts of Love. And our core mission is to distribute solar lights into developing countries where people have no access to electricity. Most people in the Western world have never heard of that, right? Like right now in this room, we have more electricity in this room and we have more light than 1.3 billion people on the planet. It's kind of like one of those things that we tell people that, well, here's a little stat. There's more people living in darkness today than when Thomas Edison first invented the light bulb.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just an incredible stat because as the world's population has gotten larger and larger, there's more and more people that have access to electricity. So my sister's the founder of the company, of the nonprofit, and we did our first light distribution 5 years ago. And the impact that light has on someone's life is just enormous. So we try and serve the bottom 5% of the world's poor. So we are serving the poorest of the poor. And what people don't understand is when you don't have access to electricity, they have these little, like a baby jar, filled with kerosene, and they burn it. And that's their only light that they have at night. And not only are these things really dangerous and really toxic, but it actually keeps them in poverty. Because when they buy this kerosene, some families spend up to 1/3 of their family's income every day to have light at night.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so when we give them these lights, it's so life-changing and transformative. Not only can people start saving the money that they're no longer burning on kerosene, but a child who has access to light attains up to 2 years more formal education. and it gives people the opportunity to start micro businesses so they can be more productive rather than just when the sun rises and sets. So there's just all these incredible benefits to light that most people in the Western world have no idea.
So with explaining the light, so when you guys first started dating, Sherry and I did a thing at the studio in Shorewood, and it was really such a great community thing. And we all came and we put together the light kits. Yeah, it was headlamps.
Yeah.
It was so explain when you say the light so that they understand what it is.
So we actually deploy about 3 different types of lights. One is a hands-free solar headlamp, and we target medical personnel, midwives, fishermen. So we try and deploy that light to people that really need to do their work hands-free. For all the women out there, just think of it this way. Can you imagine delivering a baby in complete darkness and kerosene around you? So we have these midwives that have these hands-free solar headlamps to deliver the babies. And then we have another light that's kind of about the size of like a cantaloupe, and then there's a solar panel on it, and that particular light has a USB plug to it, so that means that people can charge their cell phones. Now here's the crazy thing about that. Most people think cell phones, when we kind of came up, you had to be rich to have a cell phone, right? And in developing countries, cell phones are everywhere. Cell phone companies give these cell phones out for free. So think about our cell phones 8 years ago, right? These flip phones, these very simple cell phones, but it's their only means of communication. So like in Nepal, when we were deploying lights after the disaster, the earthquake, family members needed to communicate with other family members even across the mountain range. And you're like, wow, the mountain range. Well, that could take someone a trek for about like 3.5, 4 hours to get over the mountain just to see what was going on, right? And then there's that return trip.
And all the anxiety on the way, wondering if they're even okay.
Correct. So they're not using cell phones in terms of checking Facebook and Instagram and things like that. They're really communicating with one another in terms of what prices are grain selling at in the market. Is the guy who's selling cattle there today? So it's real essential communication as opposed to entertainment, information.
Yeah. That's so, it's fascinating. I see his face is lighting up. I know if you guys can't see it, so I know you got a question. Go ahead, Jim.
I think that's just such an amazing thing that you're doing, number one.
Thank you.
So, where does that come from? Like, it's you and your sister, correct?
And my brother-in-law. So my
brother-in-law.
yeah.
So I always want to know, like, when people start doing these humanitarian efforts, like, where that seed was, like, planted, like, growing up, like, where that comes from internally because it's got to be challenging, I got questions on that side.
Sure. So the initial idea was my sister's idea. She was in the Philippines, and she was there on business with my brother-in-law. And they were doing the thing that business people do, right? Having meetings, going to nice restaurants, talking. He owned an LED lighting company. And someone asked my sister if she wanted to go on a feeding mission. And she said yes. She wanted to see the exact opposite side. And going on the feeding mission, she was introduced to 2 young girls that were horrifically burned by kerosene. And she was like, what happened? And she said, well, they were studying by the kerosene light, fell over, exploded, and the girls were burned. And that was really like her first introduction to, hear about people living without electricity and burning kerosene. So it just kind of sat on her heart for about a year and a half. And then she was talking to the pastor who she had gone on this feeding mission with. And she's like, I'm really feeling called to do something about this. She was a stay-at-home mom with 5 boys, had no involvement at all with nonprofit or light. And the pastor was like, great, I just got transferred to this new island in the South China Sea. There's 10,000 families living there, no running water, no electricity, no doctors, no dentists. Come next month and distribute 1,000 lights. And she was like, well, how do you do that? And what does that mean? And we don't know how to do this. So basically, she and my brother-in-law started to tell people that they were going to try and do this. They were going to try and distribute lights. Nancy asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and I had just started a photo studio and an entertainment space, and literally we had a weekend. Our opening weekend party was on a Saturday, and then the next Thursday I was supposed to go. It was really difficult because my partners were like, wait, what? We just opened this thing and you're gonna go and you're gonna leave, and like this is in the height of when we're launching this new business. And not to sound like I'm telling a story, but it was like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that. And I just felt like, even though there were all of these obstacles, and there were real obstacles telling me not to go, there was something within me was like, no, I absolutely need to go. And then when I chose to go, I'm a photographer, director, producer by nature. In my past life, I was at Playboy magazine for 18 years. And all of those skills that I kind of developed there on this one trip, I was like, well, I'm going to go, and my role, not only to help distribute these lights, is really going to be to record these stories. To tell these stories of these people that we're going to encounter. And I just really made a very conscious effort that I was about to do something I had never done before. And I knew the friends and family that were going to be following me through the journey, they had never done anything like that before. So what I really felt was going to be very important is for me to share my first person experiences. The good, the bad, the ugly, the hard, right? Because I felt like if I'm really truthful and I really share both the pains and the struggles and stuff like that, like no one can argue with that, right? They might have a different experience, but that's my truth. That's my reality. And no one can say anything about that.
Yeah, it's great. I just wanted to interrupt because there's a point there that I think everybody listening in on that you raised was, and what we should listen more internally, because whenever we have something that is like feeding our soul that we just know what to do, there's so many times that we experience those obstacles that are saying no, 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 they're all external. And a lot of people, we can get really confused in that mindset of thinking like, well, maybe it's not meant to be, and then we start getting in our own head with it. But, you listen to that, deep down burning desire to do what it is and get it done. So congratulations, that's a great lesson.
Thanks. I think that's that. As I've done this now for the last 5 years, many people are always like, hey, I want to go with you guys. I want to distribute lights with you guys. And I think the people that say that are all very well intended. I really mean that. They're very well intended. But of the people that say that, I would say less than 5% actually do it. And what I tell each one when they're saying initially, I'm like, hey, I'd like to go and do that. I'm like, okay, great. The only way you're going to do it is to buy a ticket. Because saying you're going to do it, right? Whatever your approach is, whether you want to call it the universe, God, whatever, all of these things will come against you to prevent you from going. You don't have enough money. You don't have time. You can't leave your job. You can't leave your kids. And all of those are real obstacles. They really are. But unless you say, I'm committed and I'm doing this, it just doesn't happen because life comes in the way. And then I always tell them, and even after you buy that ticket, there will be a number of things that will come against you. And what I tell them is, I feel like that is a validation that you're really on the right path.
High five on that one. High five you too, Jim. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because when you really, and this is something that Jim and I talk about all the time, is that when you start doing greatness in the world, you know, entities, whatever you want to call it, are going to try pushing you down so that you can't do it, and you just got to keep doing it. Like, look at, yeah.
I think one of the things that I've also kind of learned about it is, you know, I have a very good life. I mean, I really do. I am very lucky. I'm very blessed. I have a wonderful life. But I think what people have lost, and I don't want to overstate this, but I don't want to understate it, is people make decisions to avoid obstacles or suffering or trials, right?
Yeah.
And I think what I have learned more than anything through these, like we work with the poorest of the poor and the situations that they're in. Like, it's really hard because sometimes you're just like, how can someone, why are they forced to live like that? You know? But it gives you a sense of then empathy, right? And compassion. And then my little sufferings back here in the United States mean nothing. You know, they mean so little. It's like, yes, I have hard days, and yes, I have struggles, and yes, I have difficulties, but in comparison,
Right. Yeah.
you know, and I think it gets you out of your own way of worrying about, oh gosh, I don't want to suffer, I don't want to have a difficult time, but yet then when you go through that, it feeds your soul, your life.
Yeah. Now, y'all, can you see why I said he was the one? Yeah. I don't. Go ahead, because I'm gonna cry. So go ahead, take over.
What would you say your biggest obstacles and challenges are? Biggest obstacles and challenges are working, you know, abroad.
Well, I guess what I would say is, in terms. So I would say there's two things. You realize, how do I say this? The United States has issues, right? Don't get me wrong. It really does. But the one thing that in some of these countries that you go and you start working with these people, you realize that life is not valued. And life is disposable, right? Here in the United States, if you can stay sober and or drug free, you can find a place that will give you shelter, you can find a place that will give you food, and you will find a place that can give you some medical assistance.
Right across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these nets are there, right? Not saying it's perfect. We still got to improve. But when you go into these other places, you see how disposable life is. And you see that it is really survival. And you see that so many of the governments, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what you realize is, okay, broad topic here, but man is so self-centered and so self-interest, right? How do I benefit from this? And then that flows right into government, right? So then when you see governments that are so self-interest motivated, that these people, because they can do nothing for this person in this position of power, they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing. So to help or to assist or provide, there's no motivation. There's no motivation. and you just see
There's
how
no photo op. There's no.
you
yeah.
got it. You see corruption at its purest, and it's truly evil. And the thing that I realized, which doing good is really hard, because there are governments, and I know this sounds like such a conspiracy theorist, but it's the truth. It was like a perfect example. Like when we went to Nepal after the earthquake hit, all these homes were devastated out in the mountain region. Kathmandu was wiped out, and all of the world started to send goods and supplies, and the Nepali government wouldn't let it out of the warehouses. It sat in there. There was like warehouses and warehouses of baby food, diapers, everything.
You're shitting me.
No, and it would just sit there. We still have lights today in Nepal that we cannot get out.
Wow.
And you're even at its worst, like in a humanitarian issue like that. And I'm not a cynical person, but one of the things that we learned is, and I'm just going to pull these numbers out, but in a disaster situation, for every person that wants to do good, there's 2 people that see it as an opportunity to benefit themselves. Right? And you can get really disheartened about that, or you can sit there and say, well, I can't change them, but I know I can do my part.
That's powerful.